The second episode of the final season of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. aired just last night. And as a big fan of the show, I'm here to break it all down. So I hope you'll join me after the intro. Well, hello there. My name's Jeremy and welcome back to Freeform Disney, where I talk about all aspects of Disney, from the animated movies to the theme parks to Star Wars, Marvel, and Pixar, and the TV shows, and everything else in between. And that is why it's Freeform. And keep coming back every day for new daily content. If you're not subscribed yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We're watching the newest season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and it's time to talk all about episode 2, which is titled Know Your Onions. Now, I'm probably going to jump around a fair bit through the episode, but first, let's talk about the plot. And the plot is pretty straightforward, and I'm going to sum it up like this. So we found out at the end of the last episode that the person they were protecting was Freddie Malek, one of the founders of Hydra here in the US. Now this time, some of them feel it's a moral dilemma on whether they should protect him or not. We also find out that what he was transporting to the meetup was super soldier serum. Daisy ends up deciding later on, frack it, I'm okay with the Chronicons taking over the planet if I can take out the head of Hydra and change history. Go Team Chronicom! Well, that might not be her reasoning. After all, doing what's right now is the answer. Luckily, Zeke decides that he's not a cold-blooded killer and isn't going to kill a kid who hasn't actually technically done anything yet, and Mac thinks it's a bad idea too. So everybody ends up getting together and fighting off the Chronicoms, and then we jump off to the next point in time where they'll have to stop the Chronicoms again. Oh, and also, May woke up, beat up Enoch while wanting to go out and protect everyone, then saw LMD Coulson, which made her pretty motionless, and she went back to bed. And Enoch, by the way, is now stuck in the past with Koenig because he missed the plane. There you go. Okay, so that was the major plot and the main subplot in there. And you can see, not that much to it. It was pretty straightforward, stuff we've kind of covered before, and there were definitely good elements of this episode, although I do think it was certainly not as strong as the first episode. So what's some of the interesting stuff? Well, Simmons had a fair bit in this episode. I mean, first off, she goes ahead and performs surgery, takes a bullet out, nice, in a bar, by the way, and then tosses together this chemistry lab right there at the speakeasy, and figures out that that little green gob of goo on Viola's shoe is super soldier serum. Never underestimate Simmons. Oh, and by the way, she was not taking any shit as far as the casual sexism coming from Koenig in there. And hey, that even let her make a Star Trek reference with a little, I'm a doctor, not a dame. I love the references, and man, this is definitely a taking no shit version of Simmons. And it makes you wonder, too. I've heard the theory put out, do you think Simmons is, say, an LMD at this point? That enough time passed that she's not human anymore? I don't think I go for that at this point, but I can certainly see the theory going. Obviously, we will find this all out in due course as the season progresses, but yeah, for the time being, let's go with a different guess. Oh, and speaking of Simmons and also Fitz, who has been gone in that time period for who knows how long, we didn't really hear anything about Fitz this time, didn't see him still. So we're now 2 episodes in, and no sign of Fitz. I admit I'm surprised. I figured we would have at least gotten a button reference or something to where Fitz was, but hey, maybe episode 3. One of the interesting little tiny pieces that was hinted at during this episode was a little bit on Yo-Yo. We found that it looks like she might definitely have some PTSD going on from last season, considering, well, she almost died and was turned into one of those shrieks at the end of the season last time, and that's made her a little unsure, and I'm sure the arms don't help. And in this episode, she ended up choking and being unable to catch a bottle, and I'm sure we'll dive into this a little more. It feels like we're starting to give hints toward it more and more as the season's going. When this will really break out to the forefront, well, we'll see. I'm guessing it won't be the 3rd episode. I'm feeling like it's a little further out. Maybe won't really hit into it till, say, the 5th or 6th episode if I make my guess right. So what about May? We've got a lot left to learn about what May is like now. Simmons made a comment that May really shouldn't be up this quick after essentially being brought back to life. And that probably is part of why May is acting as oddly as she is, where the emotions are a little off. She's very, very cold right now. And her reaction to seeing Coulson alive, or kind of alive, LMD Coulson, whew, man, that was cold. And understandable, considering. And Coulson's all like, aren't you at all surprised? I was dead. You still are. So, whew, yeah. And that was the end of her. We did have a nice fight between her and Enoch, but yeah, it's painful. And here's hoping for better things in times ahead. So let me jump back into that main plot line for a moment. I really had a harder time getting into all the questioning that was going on in this one. And I think that's because we really set the season up with such a stark set of consequences if they fail. Essentially, keep the timeline intact, or else the Chronicoms will go ahead and take over Earth. And we assume kill all the humans. Or at least enslave them, one or the other. That's not clear, but nothing good anyway. So essentially, if we don't keep it intact, giant consequences, which makes all these other moral dilemmas a lot more one-sided, frankly. So I just don't get as worked up about, let's create Hydra to go ahead and save S.H.I.E.L.D. Well, of course we are, because that's what the timeline is, and we want to preserve it, right? After all, those Chronicoms know exactly what thread to pull, so we need to stop whatever the heck it is they're up to. Now, there could be some really fun wine in front of me stuff. The Chronicoms actually pulled a bluff and tried to make it look like they were going to do something that they really didn't want to do. And then had our people go ahead and try to stop them and actually create the very problem that they thought they were trying to stop. That could be a fun double bluff right there. But I don't know that that's probably going to happen during the course of this. It would be intriguing. One thing that surprised me, how did no one end up really talking about Captain America and Hulk during the course of this episode? After all, the super soldier serum experiments, that's what it led to. I mean, this should have been Coulson's moment to shine, Mr. Big History Buff, the Captain America super fan that he is. He should have been talking about that and really helping explain the giant consequences to stopping the super serum from coming forward. Heck, without the super serum and getting Captain America and whatnot, I'm just saying there's some nasty things that might come and we would be unprepared. On top of that, how many world-ending events have we gone through at this point? Taking out people like Captain America might be a really bad idea right there, and making it so S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't exist. Now, all that said, I understand Daisy's choice. I mean, this very much is Daisy. Daisy's very much about making what she feels is that right choice at the moment, and damn the consequences sometimes. The only problem is these are pretty fucking major consequences. Phew. Thankfully, Zeke got to know Freddy a little and isn't about to go kill someone who technically hasn't done anything evil yet that we know of. Thank you, Zeke. Koenig, by the way, in this episode, tons of fun. As one would kind of expect from Patton Oswalt playing Koenig. Ton of fun as a guest character. Enjoyed him being in here. And I imagine we're not done seeing him yet. After all, Koenig now knows a heck of a lot about the future because Enoch got left behind and he's over there with him. Not to mention Koenig got to see the plane and all kinds of other stuff. So leaves us the interesting question on our quadtuplets later on. Are they actually LMDs? I mean, one died so you'd think they were actually human, but they look a lot like Koenig here. Or ancestor Koenig. So maybe, just maybe, they're actually LMDs. Or maybe the timeline shifted and they become that. All kinds of interesting questions right here. And speaking of knowing a lot about the timeline, good old Freddie Malik just learned a lot more about the timeline than I think he should know. And maybe, just maybe, the act of Zeke looking like he was going to go ahead and kill Malik might help push him more evil. It's an interesting thing to go through. Now that doesn't necessarily fit with what we were thinking about the timeline being the whole stream thing. This is kind of the whole, you go back and create the timeline you've already got. Or maybe it's a similar one. Who knows? We've got all kinds of questions going on here as to what's really going on with the timeline and everything else. But hey, it was overall, definitely, it was still a fun episode, even if it wasn't as good as the first one. But it really leaves me waiting for that next episode and where we can get on to something new. One last closing note on the episode. I loved Koenig literally taking a bullet for the team. It was a fun little moment. Nicely done. Nicely done. Okay, next week we'll be off to some other time and maybe, just maybe, we'll see Fitz. At any rate, I'll be back next week for the next episode. And hey, what about you? What did you think of this episode? Did you have a favorite moment in it? Let me know down below in the comments. And thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a like, share it with other people who will too, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you back here tomorrow for another new episode of Freeform Disney. Have a magical day, and may the Force be with you always.